Hello, I'm Ari. What is happening right now in Gaza is not a post-war situation, it's a forced reordering. And the main issue isn't reconstruction as many thought, it's control. Hamas has returned to the streets, but no longer with parades or armbands. It operates in civilian clothes in small coordinated cells. And it has unleashed a campaign of public executions and shootings to regain power against the tribal militias that grew during the war. Its Sa'an and Rada units executed dozens this week and fought neighborhood by neighborhood, especially against the Dormash group. In Sabra, where Salah al-Jafarawi, a social media influencer close to these militia, was murdered, the message was direct. No mercy for those who stole food from the people. That's right, doctor, and it worked. Clans like the Meheda swore loyalty. In Rafah, Abu Sabat even declared himself a mini-republic before aligning himself again. Meanwhile, the so-called Yellow Line divided the strip into two realities. On one side, an area with Israeli presence. On the other, areas where Hamas is still active. And this border is very porous. 2 days ago in Shubayba, 5 Palestinians died. After the Y crossing was converted, just a few kilometers from there, inside Gaza, the Israel Defense Forces finished physically marking the Yellow Line. That internal border that divides the territory between areas controlled by Israel and areas where Hamas is trying to reimpose its authority. The Israeli soldiers have placed concrete blocks and yellow posts 3.5 meters high spaced every 200 meters, accompanied by signs and pamphlets warning in Arabic. Crossing it puts your life at risk. The Ministry of Defense explained that the goal is to achieve tactical clarity, but on the ground, that line has become a blurry and dangerous border. Many civilians don't know exactly where it is drawn, and there have already been reports of clashes and deaths of people who crossed unintentionally. For Israel, it's a way to maintain control without occupying all of Gaza, at least up to its original limits. For Palestinians, it marks the boundary between reality and what's left of Gaza after 2 years of war, and on the other side, what they consider their enemies. Beyond geography, the Yellow Line marks a new relationship between both sides. A ceasefire without trust, a peace that stands on fear. Gaza is forcibly rearranged, Israel reinforces its borders, and the rest of the world watches, wondering if this marks the end of a war or the start of a new phase. Quieter, but just as tense. Yes, while the municipalities controlled by Hamas clear debris and reopen streets under piles of rubble, they are still searching for Israeli bodies. They first complained about the lack of machinery, but now it's there and they've started digging. They are searching for the tunnels that have been buried under the watchful eyes of Red Cross authorities, who previously supposedly refused to declare that such tunnels were simply a fabrication by Israel. Well, now we see them there supervising the excavations so that Hamas can find the tunnels. Where they know the bodies, the corpses of the hostages who are still there are buried or deposited. And after the threats that Donald Trump made this week, well, Hamas has decided to start digging more and looking for more bodies that have been handed over throughout all these days. Social photography is really tough. More than 500,000 homes destroyed or damaged, 80% of the educational system in ruins, and 75% of the mosques demolished. Unemployment and poverty near 100%. In that context, the opinion poll is not surprising. 71% of Gazans believe that no one won the war. They don't even give credit to Hamas. The dominant feeling is one of skeptical relief, which is felt by 54% of Gazans compared to 27% who express sadness, simply about what happened and the state of what is left of Gaza. It's worth highlighting that what was there before was what Israel had built during the time it was there administering that area. And what about that Rafah? A United Nations employee sums it up without drama. No one expects a quick or drastic change. A comment that simply shows what's ahead. There is also a battle over the narrative. On the streets, people chant Allahu Akbar during executions. Many justify their punishments against the clans for having looted the aid. And there is a perception going around that President Trump may have given the green light to restore order. And they understood the restoration of order as mass executions, simply under the pretext that they were people or clans that had been defeated and focused on stealing aid supplied during the 2 years of war. However, clearly it's nothing more than a power struggle, where the main actor, which is Hamas, obviously they're fighting with everyone and executing anyone who stands in their way to resist them. Whether those interpretations are real or not, on the ground what you see is Hamas reimposing authority no matter the cost. Israel, for its part, faces another dilemma. If it protects the clans with which it forged ties, it reignites the conflict. If it abandons them, it compromises its regional credibility. There have already been failed experiments in the past. For example, the South Lebanon army, which was called the Village Leagues. And the question is, was anything learned from those experiences? Politically, the ceasefire is stuck between phases. Not all the bodies of the Israeli soldiers have been returned yet, which corresponds to phase number 1, which still hasn't been completed. And at the same time, governance negotiations are underway, which would be phase number 2 with many unknowns. Egypt announced a 15-member leadership council for Gaza without any public names, and there is talk of about 150 Palestinian Authority agents arriving in Rafah. And the idea of an international force of 4,000 troops is being discussed, led by Egypt along with Indonesia, Turkey, and Azerbaijan. None of this excites the poor. The ceasefire is holding, yes, but there's no faith in quick changes. My takeaway here is sober. Gaza is not returning to normal, it's entering a normalization of coercion. Hamas ruled through punishment. Israel is consolidating a separation line to contain. And exhausted people are trying to return to ruins they call Auda, return. If anything defines this moment, it's fragility. All it takes is for daily friction to escalate. A crossing of the yellow line, for example, a raid, an execution could be enough. The government of Israel is going to be the one making the policy. King David composed the psalm in Hebrew and the
wrote it in Hebrew.
Well, my daughter, who is gifted in music, she's a violinist, has started a beautiful project together with my wife, a collection of psalms sung for every occasion. When you finish this video, visit the channel. It's called The Voice of Zion, and of course, subscribe. I assure you, you'll be pleasantly surprised. If you like this kind of channel, if you like listening to this kind of music, and for those who speak English, you can also look for the channel The Voice of Zion, which is the English version. So check out these channels, and there in the comments, let me know what you think about these innovative compositions of the epic Psalms of King David. Find the link to these two channels in the description below. Alright, let's continue. And it seems like a lot of things are happening. To understand the moment, just look at the political air bridge we have going on. First, President Trump himself came with his team pushing for the ceasefire. Then Jared Kushner and the envoy Steve Witkoff arrived to shore up the truce and meet with those who had been released. And now Vice President Baines has landed, who opened a civil-military coordination center and spoke about lasting peace. And in the coming days, Secretary of State Marco Rubio will join in to try to consolidate what has been agreed upon. In short, Israel is at the center of Washington's agenda, and the sequence of visits in such a short time makes it very clear. Apparently, for the United States administration, this whole issue is very important. Or who knows if there's something going on under the table that we don't know about. So, well, we'll have to stay very alert. So, while Gaza continues to burn in its own internal chaos, here in Jerusalem, the Knesset has just passed a law that could change the political map of Israel and the entire region. Listen to me carefully. With 64 votes in favor and 56 against, the Israeli parliament gave the green light to the bill that declares Israel's full sovereignty over Judea and Samaria, what the world calls the West Bank. The bill was introduced by members of Likud and religious Zionism. And although there are still administrative processes and legal adjustments pending, the political message is very clear. Israel no longer recognizes those areas as disputed territory, but as an integral part of its national sovereignty. It's the first time since the creation of the State of Israel that this idea has moved from words to paper. Prime Minister Netanyahu immediately rejected Donald Trump's proposal. Yes, the same Donald Trump, President of the United States, who promoted the Abraham Accords to halt this process for a new regional security pact. Netanyahu's response was direct. No one will stop us. No one will stop us from exercising our sovereignty over our land. And although many celebrated the decision as a historic step, it must be said not everyone in Israel sees it the same way. Netanyahu, however, seems determined to stay the course. What he seeks is to send a double message to his electorate who remain committed to the idea of the indivisible promised land, and to his enemies that Israel stands firm against external pressure. Meanwhile, as the world watches, Europe has already expressed its deep concern, and the White House, although without a direct condemnation, made it clear that any unilateral measure does not help the peace process. But the reality is that the peace process has been in a coma for years, as if it had been anesthetized. And this law only serves to confirm what was already evident on the ground. Israel has governed and administered those lands for a long time. The move may also have an internal impact. After months of divisions and protests, this law brings a good part of the right-wing bloc back together around a common cause. In a country that has been divided between security and social justice, the word sovereignty is becoming a new point of national cohesion. Of course, in Ramallah and Gaza, the interpretation is very different. For them, this step eliminates any chance of a Palestinian state, and it marks the beginning of an era in which Israel decides alone, without mediators. And the question then is inevitable. How far is Israel willing to go with this new policy? Will it be just a symbolic declaration or the prelude to a definitive reconfiguration of the Middle East map? Let me know your opinion there in the comments. And if there's one thing that's clear, it's that every move Israel makes, no matter how small it may seem, triggers a chain reaction on a global scale. And this time, the chain has already started to move. We remain attentive to the news. Remember to visit the channels of the Sung Psalms. You can find the links here in the description of this video. Don't forget to like and turn on the bell to get notified of new videos. See you.